I'd like to call to order the September 8th, 2015 Board of Education regular meeting. Please, if you're already rise, please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, I've been out of school all summer. I don't know how to speak proper English, and I said you all have already rised. I'm sure you all, I hope you all know that Trustee Diane Freeze resigned last week for medical issues, so I think you can kind of tell by our color palette tonight that she is having some issues with breast cancer. Yes, very huge work. So we wish her well, and she will stay in our thoughts and prayers. She's got some work ahead of her, and we'll miss her. She always brought a good vantage point to our board discussions. So on that note, Friday at 4 p.m. is the deadline for applications to replace Diane on the board. So if anyone's interested, who's eligible, send your paperwork to Ms. Waltz in the superintendent's office. All right. This is the point of the meeting where we will entertain public comment. Does anyone have public comment tonight? Administration.
Just a couple. I wanted to kind of jump on. Diane always had a real student-focused view in terms of that, and so I really appreciate that. And again, our thoughts are with her moving forward. Would then like to thank all of the staff for all of their work. We talked a little bit about it last week at our opening day on Thursday, and certainly want to thank all the staff that put in all the time over the summer to make sure today went well, and the staff that were there today to see the faces, to see the activity over the weekend and the excitement level of the staff. It's great to have the school year on its way. So for the kids out there, we're one day closer to spring break or summer break and everything else that's coming up. So appreciate that. And then next to that, I would like to thank the three groups and essentially 5 teachers, Kristen Gearbaugh, Jamie Ballrath, Adam Rodriguez, Joanna Merkowitz, and Kira Davis, who did the Ignite sessions for us last Thursday. And it was really nice to be able to, one, it was nice to be able to have a presentation, not have to do much talking, which was kind of nice. And then certainly I think the staff being able to see teachers in our district talking about what they're doing in their classroom, talking about the successes they had, talking about the struggle it is to think differently and to twist and to tweak, and the gift of struggle. It was really an inspiring opportunity to see staff get up and do that. And I know they weren't particularly, I don't say they weren't excited about it, they were anxious to do it, but they were certainly scared, and to see them jump forward and do that, and the feedback they've gotten from their peers has been pretty special. So that and the picture of Paul with the chains on and the blood one on is something else too. Also inspiring.
It was inspiring. And I think, Steve, in your weekly notes, you had the links to all those presentations? Or were they not links in there?
They're just regular tidbits. Yeah.
Okay.
So we actually did not record that. I did talk to Chase. We did not record. Those will be infamous presentations.
Had to be there to...
Yeah, it's like Woodstock.
Remember?
I'm on a roll all day. That's all I have.
That's all you have.
Just cut me off now.
Okay. I'll echo Superintendent Grade's comments. It was a very good, thought and productive meeting. And over the last week, I think I drive by almost every building on an almost daily basis. I saw cars out there and teachers getting their classrooms ready. So we appreciate all the work. Anybody else have anything, Heidi?
Just wanted to highlight a few things from the foundation. We did not meet this morning because of the first day of school, but they did send us out a reminder for the launch of the kickoff this fall. That is October 6th from 6 to 9. And I passed out to the board, but that's open to the whole community. And so we want to make sure we get as many people out to that launch as possible. As we will have a homegrown concert with the Saline area schools alumni which will be a very interesting and fun opportunity to have that concert. So come out and join us, support the foundation, and hope to see you there.
Good to go.
Good to go. Dennis, anything? No? You okay?
I just wanted to piggyback on somewhat what you guys were saying about, I don't know if anybody follows Saline Schools on Twitter, but the buzz that's been going on with the teachers over the last few days, and how excited they were about getting their classrooms set up and things like that. I was really proud of our district, and so just wanted to kind of mention that and all the good work, so thank you.
We have, you all got an email, but there is a legislative breakfast at the ISD on 9/21
Thank you.
at 7:30 a.m. If anyone can make that to meet with our legislatures from Lansing. How about a cut that? It's always a good chance to get our viewpoint across to them. To ping on last meeting's graduation discussion, it will be June 5th outdoors at Saline Hornet Stadium. Tomorrow night I will be at the middle school open house with Mr. Raft, and next week I'll be at the high school open house to talk quickly about the bond and student handbooks. So there's a good right time to get the handbook message drilled into parents and students, so I will take that opportunity to mention that. That's all we have. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Of course.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, it passes 6-0. Scheduled reports. Our first one.
All right, I'm going to call Kendra Lee to at least stand up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Cordellis to talk a little bit about why Kendra's here tonight.
Yeah, we're very proud of Kendra and excited. Kendra, on August 7th, earned the Human Resource Specialist certification from MSBO, and earning that certification requires 61 hours of class time and about 90 hours overall of professional development. For those of you that don't know, Kendra handles payroll in the district, and it's one of those kind of thankless jobs. Millions of dollars pass through her hands, and it's one of those deals where if something goes wrong, they call Mr. Tomozik or me. But when things go well, nothing happens, and things go well here a lot. It's a relatively complex job, and it stays that way. And so the fact that she's been able to take the time to take these courses to stay current with ORS changes and those types of things has really benefited not only her professionally, but in a larger sense the district in a really big way. And so I know when Kendra came to us a couple years ago, she notified Mr. Raft that he was old enough to be her father, which we all got a kick out of. But she's just been a great addition to our staff. She's been here now for 2.5 years, going on her 3rd year, and again, did a real nice job earning this certification, and we're just really proud of her and happy to be able to bring her here for a little recognition tonight. No speech. I'm going to kill some time, Mr. Green.
Yeah, you might need to, no, here we go.
Yeah, nothing else to go right today, so.
I can do it.
Next up, I would like to introduce Patty Haynes. It's been not much of maybe the worst kept secret. Patty has indicated she will be retiring at the end of the year, and Patty's been a part of our transportation department for literally as long as anyone in this room at least can remember. And
Over 31 years.
31 years on a variety of things, and stepped into the role of director and of a transportation department that was fairly high functioning, and honestly has really taken it, we talk about 21st century, taking it in the 21st century in terms of the way we handle operations there. And today, I applaud her for being here today, as her and then even Rex, who's here tonight as well, can attest. The first day of school, a lot of times goes really straightforward inside the buildings. The first area to really notice the timing, the logistics, and frankly the apprehension of the parents and students is really the transportation department. We talk a lot about first person school staff member they see. Well, that happened this morning for the students that were on our bus, and certainly getting them to school and then getting them home from school is always a challenge. We have a lot of students that have a lot of anxiety, and I know our staff worked very hard today to make sure that they were returned home safely. And well prior to this meeting, all were returned home safely. So that's the bottom line. And because of that, Patty's here tonight. Talk a little bit about our fleet and the good work they do there.
So, first off, thank you very much for having me tonight. Transportation is a really important part of my life, has been, as I've said, for a long time. The one thing that I'd like to say is that I have 3 little pictures up here that, first off, I'd like to talk about Buster. He's a huge part of what the CARES Foundation and the FSAS has given to us to train the students here at Saline Area Schools the importance of safety of transportation starting off. The middle is, of course, the fleet, and the outside is Dave Melchesky, that is a brand new to one of my mechanics. Saline Schools has 2 mechanics that work full-time in the transportation department, and they have to service a lot of buses and to keep them running in a fleet that I'm going to discuss and show you what they deal with on a daily basis. So the hydraulic brakes that he's working on here are very interesting. We have transferred over to air brakes, so a lot of my drivers had to be recertified. When I originally came many years ago, I was certified for the air brake endorsement, but we walked away from it because it was a harder endorsement to pass for a few years. But the problem with that is that the hydraulic brakes are a lot more expensive to maintain, and the air brakes are a lot better on buses. So we have about 5 drivers still that need to be recertified for that. But that is, I need a clicker thing.
Sorry, yeah, you gotta hit the space bar.
But I gotta hit the space bar. Just hit that?
Yep.
Okay, as I'm not a teacher, so you know, it's a
No, you're
little
good.
different.
Run that for you.
So, yeah, you could, if you would, I'd appreciate it. So there are 29 routes here in Saline. 26 are high school and 24 are elementary. 3 are special ed runs that are just special ed students on them. 1 that goes to High Point in Ann Arbor on Wagner. And then we have the young adult program here at Liberty School that we have a bus for that is just designated to them. This year we did add from about 10 to 1 o'clock every day for the second bus to take them to their job sites and etc. So there's 2 buses that really run daily for the special ed program of the young adults here from Liberty. So there's also swimming, building trades, and the ECSE routes that officially start tomorrow for our little guys that are special ed. There's over 700 sports and field trips in the district that we do yearly. I did not do a count, didn't quite have a time for the exact amount. New to us in the past year, last year I was notified by the U of M to fulfill some of the needs of the shuttle service for the University of Michigan for their sports teams. They weren't real happy with who was providing the services. My staff was very professional, and may I say they came back this year, 6 of them. We had to become DOT certified so that we were for hire. So we can provide outside of our district, staying within the state of Michigan, any of the routes, any of the like U of M, or if, like I did a lot for the football last year, we had 14 buses a day that transferred the football players for the shuttle all over. The other one that we had, what we were contacted by this year, which was new to us, is the Jewish Community Center in Ann Arbor. The Jewish Community Center contacted me. I worked with a gentleman named Ethan there, and we went daily. I had 2 bus drivers that shared this out to Pierce Road and the other side of Chelsea. And we took 40 to 50 students a day out there, Monday through Friday. So it definitely brought revenue into the district. And it's also, the best part for me was to fulfill revenue for my drivers and to have them have funds through the summer. That's the most difficult thing to keep staff, is when they don't have a paycheck for 8 or 10 weeks. So, go for it. My school bus fleet, there are 49 buses, totaling 7,192,139 miles. As of last Thursday, September 3rd, that is up to date. That averages per bus 145,419 miles. That's a lot of miles. I don't know how many of you, we have 8 buses that have over 200,000 miles on, that we drive every day with students on it on elementary and high school, middle school runs.
There are 21 buses that are 16 years or older. I don't know how many of you drive older than 16 years old. 39 buses are 10 years and older, and 48 buses are over 6 years old. 2009 was the newest that we have in this fleet. Next. State police inspection. Every year we get, inspected by the state police. This is an example of bus number 22. We elected not to send this bus through, and it is not on the road presently. I want everyone to be aware of that, because we knew it would never pass. This is the undercarriage of the bus. This is where the fuel tank is. There's a cage that goes around the fuel tank, and that fuel tank these are more than 2 inches in width. It can only be a ½ inch for a state police inspection to pass. This is another one on the same bus that is underneath the battery box. I mean, everything under this bus, but it's amazing on the outside of the bus. This particular bus, when you walk around the outside, still has great body. And so it's hard for us to look at it, but to rebuild this is about $4,000 to $5,000 of the labor and the intensity to replace it. So we opt not to do that. This bus is most likely just going to the scrapyard. Bus 96, which was from 1993, blew up in Bedford last October. Actually, it was November. And we went down and got it back here in a very ingenious way. Kind of comical, but my mechanics went down to get it so we didn't have to pay. And there was snow, and they packed it with snow 3 different times to get it back here to keep the engine cool. So out of creativity. But this is what we deal with a lot, is the rust holes. And it's really scary when you get under them to see the cross members in the bus, how rusty they are. So it's a concern to all of us, and especially my mechanics. Go ahead. State police inspections are completed once a year by the state of Michigan. They come to our garage, get a creeper, go underneath every bus. Did you switch it? Are you drunk? It's my day. So you gotta go to, yeah, that one. So this is the rust and repairs. So I don't know if you can see it from here, but this around here, it was solid rust that you could put your hand through. This here with all the rivets, you probably can't, but the rivets on it are where they cut out the piece and they re-put it over so that it was replaced. This is what it would originally look like right here. This is a bus that we still have in our fleet that we have to repair the underside. That's the back door of the emergency door exit. There's many of them that look like this that we take and we'll piece in the steel and attach it to it and then color it, and it will pass inspection because nothing bigger than the ½ inch. The rub rails on the bus, you can replace it's gone now.
Yeah.
We lost internet connection.
Yeah, here we're gonna.
But that's one thing that takes time to repair, because you have to take that off, replace it, and there's a lot of rust time that we spend with my mechanics to replace it.
Patty, while we're waiting for the...
Not a problem. I can keep talking.
I have a question. Like, back in the day, they used to like Z-bar underneath vehicles. Do they do that to buses? Is
Yeah,
there
they
some
can
kind
do
of
that to
coating
buses.
that would
Yep.
alleviate the rust a little bit?
No, I think we're too late for that now
Well,
with our
now,
aging
but-
fleet. But actually, most of the buses, when they come new, you do pay for that.
Pay for that.
And originally, ours did have that.
But it's just all...
But it's just too many years.
Okay.
But we did, because I can remember going underneath it and seeing them. Okay, you can go to the next screen. So over the past 7 years, we had to become creative on how to furnish the buses in our district. So I work very closely with both Chelsea, Dexter, and Manchester, the supervisors there, and we had started to look at their buses because I couldn't buy new ones. So, because we were not in the bond and didn't have the finances for them. So over the last, I would say 6 years, we didn't buy only 1 or 2 before I became the director. I think we're up to 12 buses that we've purchased from Manchester, Chelsea, and I think we've only purchased 1 from Dexter. In that time, we purchased them with blown engines. We know at the time that they were. We've had 3 that have blown since we've gotten those buses. But it's approximately, we are mechanics and have a garage that does rebuild the buses. And we have rebuilt all of them. I always go to Janice and tell her, this is my goal to have these all done. Right now, we are all done, believe it or not, Janice. We did 3 this summer. $1,800 is just the material cost. It's not the labor and the intensity of doing it. But many school districts don't rebuild them. We are fortunate that I have mechanics that are skilled to do that. So when we buy these, though, a lot of times the rust repair, the back doors need to replace, new batteries, new tires. And so it is not that you just get the bus and then you don't have to put time and money into it, because you do. You have to put everything into that too.
I want to note here real quick, so Manchester, Chelsea, and Dexter are buying their buses with bond dollars. I want to make sure that, you know, essentially, we're buying their used buses out of our general fund. All of those districts have had, in each of those cases, multiple bond issues over the last several
Yep.
years. And that's how they're buying new buses. And so
It is.
it's not as though they're doing something to generate money to buy new buses that
No.
we're not. They simply have access to bond dollars for this very purpose because of what Patty's talking about.
So what's a good, maybe you'll get to this later, what's the good life cycle of a bus? How many years and how many
A lot of
miles?
years ago, it used to be that they wanted us to turn them over in 10 years. That was the philosophy. It's basically 15 now, is what they tell you that, you know, because the funding is different than it was 25 years ago and 20 years ago.
Okay, what's the average age of our fleet?
Our average age of our fleet
You
is,
guys did that, yeah.
no, I already kind of said how old. They're all older than 10 years. There's 48 buses that are older than 6 years. There's 39 buses that are older than 10. And 21 buses that are more than 16 years old.
So 1.5 fleet is 60.
Yeah, yeah.
In the average age of the buses that you purchased from these districts?
Our 2002s and 2003s. But what I look at too, and Janice and I have spent a lot of time talking about this too, I kind of have, because a lot of them make fun of me, you know, and tease me about never buying buses in other districts. But the one thing that I have to say is when we buy them, they have to go through inspection just like everybody else. And it has to be state police inspected. They're safe to go on the road. And the inspection's done. But the one thing is that we provide the same service that they do with the used buses. And we provide it safely. And I do want to stress that. And we purchased 3 this year, or 2 this year. And it was $29,000 for the 2 that we did it. Sometimes it's an average of 10. I've paid as low as $3,000 and $4,000 for buses with blown engines that are still on the road right now, and they're 4 and 5 years old. So if you know, there's different ways to look at it. It's how it works, okay, and how we've made it work.
And a new bus would be
Whoops.
200.
No, about anywhere from $90,000 to $115,000. It depends on what you're gonna. Like your special ed buses, of course, once they're done, you know, I honestly in my years have never bought a bus and probably won't. Okay? It won't be me. It'll be somebody else. But I just buy the used ones. So, but that's the average price is anywhere from 90 to 115 usually. Okay. Replacing old buses. And I want you to know that these pictures that you're seeing coming in are sent to me by other directors from those districts that sell me buses because they think these might be my buses. A little humor in life. So, since we've not purchased any buses since 2009, 6 years ago, we purchased 5 new buses that year. In my director, I've never had the opportunity. So that's the Manchester and Chelsea. But this is why we need to replace the school buses. And I'm going to read this article, and there was a lot more to it. But it's more than half the school buses today have been in service for over a decade. These older buses lack today's pollution control safety features and emit twice as much pollution per mile as a semi-truck. School buses built to meet EPA's 2010 standards emit 95% less pollution than pre-2007 vehicles and are 60 times cleaner than pre-1991 buses. Older buses are excellent candidates for replacement with newer, cleaner vehicles. Replacing the oldest buses will greatly reduce children exposure to diesel exhaust and provide considerable safety and improvements. Because the new buses are greener to run, they're much better, and I will go through why we need them, okay? The new bus perks. Safety standards are higher for new buses. The fuel economy is very much improved compared to what our older ones are. The steps and handrails, because our older buses only have one side of handrail, The newer ones, even the newest ones in my fleet that are 10 years old, have 2 sides, but many only have 1 side. And for students that are special ed or the little guys getting up, that's a really hard. And there's 4 steps in the newer ones where there's only 2 or 3 in the older ones. So decreased stopping distance has been improved along with the overall brake improvements. Structurally sound and more comfort for both the driver and the passengers on them. And emissions in new buses are improved and don't produce diesel particulates that is much greener to our environment. So, what kind of questions do you have for me? None? Go.
We talked about the fleet. I think people need to understand from a driver standpoint some of the challenges you face in terms of making sure that all the buses we have drivers.
I can't. This is the hardest thing that we do. And I'll be honest, that's probably what has driven me to retirement. I love what I do, and I've loved what I've done here. And as I told Scott one day, I need to label I love it. Because on a daily basis, we just cannot keep these drivers. Funding, the hourly rate is so different, and it's such a split shift. And our bus fleet is old. It's hard. They're not as comfortable. These seats aren't as comfortable. They're not air ride seats. They're spending 5 to some of them 8, some of them even with young adult 10 hours in a bus seat in a day. So that's a long time with not the comfort. I know it's hard to understand that, but there's a lot of comforts that come with newer buses, and my fleet, my drivers don't have that. So, and it's been really hard. I've lost some of my best drivers over the last few years, and a lot of them have said to me, Patty, we love working for Saline Schools Transportation, but we can't afford to anymore, and that's hard. I went through a drawer that is solid for my 6 years of people coming and going. The turnover compared to 20 years ago is astronomical, and it's very hard.
Are the drivers going to other school districts?
No, they're leaving the
Or are they
profession.
just leaving driving?
They're leaving driving. No, I haven't lost many. I gained some from Ann Arbor from the privatization with Durham, just a couple. But it's hard for them too because, we train our drivers for the way that we want them, our culture here. When they come from a different school, it's very hard because there's habits and there's different cultures that come to us that are not easy it's a real challenge, I'll be honest with you. It's like retraining again, and they're not real open to it. So that presents a lot of issues.
And I'll piggyback on that so you don't have to say it. Essentially, one of the things that does set the district apart, we still have kind of the one high school community focus, and the staff that Patty has and the transportation embody that and believe in that. As in other districts, a lot of times larger districts, maybe less centralized districts, it's very much just a service. Like an AT.
It's not like
whereas
that here.
it's not like here where the students know their names, the staff know the students' names, they know the families, they know siblings, they have knowledge of the community that add value to the service. So it's not just about a price point in terms of getting from A to B, it's about the value of the service that they provide. And sometimes people coming into that environment aren't ready for it, and the adaptation to that can be hard. Because we have a very high standard for our drivers, and collectively the drivers want to meet that.
And they try very hard to meet that. I will say that. But I would like to invite any and all of you to the bus garage. Call me at any time. Stop in and see us. I would love to put buses up on our hoist. Today I was actually talking to Rex before I went to talk to Rex, but I don't know if I ever did. It was kind of chaotic right before we walked out. But I said one thing that we really need to look at in the future here is probably when we expand again here in Saline, and I was in on that when I first went in the office 15 years ago. There's a lot of changes that you need to look at in the elementary buildings especially. But the other thing that we need to look at is the radio system that we presently have. There was an example was a student had been placed on a wrong bus tonight. The bus that we could not get a hold of, and I had no idea, I thought it was on another bus with the process of elimination, was all the way out in Bridgewater. They cannot hear us on these radios, so we really need to look at eventually updating these radios, because we have such issues with that, because we're in such an area where there's so much being transferred around. We can't pull it anymore, and it's very difficult when you have an emergency.
How many buses today would you say need to be replaced? Like, is that,
I would say 25.
To kind of jump on, one of the things we've talked about the phased approach.
Mhm.
Essentially, there's depending on how we were purchased, as Patty's talked about, even if we went and started buying with bond dollars, we have checked to see if you could buy used buses with bond dollars, because ultimately you want to have a staggered
Yes.
fleet, as you know, and that essentially the $3 million over the 3 series that we have articulated, we'd like to see that essentially change over the entire fleet in that time, at least a strategy to do so.
You don't want to, you don't really want 10 at a time, because in 10 years, you can't replace, it has to be much more gradual. And we have done what we've done, so, I would love 25. That would be a dream of a transportation director. Is it reality? No, it's not. And we will continue next year. I can tell you, I have spied on, I may not be here, but Manchester and Chelsea will definitely work with us. And they will work with who is ever going to buy these buses. And I would continue to do that, because for the economical price of them and how long we get out of them, and we know, they tell us what's wrong with them. They're very upfront and honest, so you kind of know what you're getting. I mean, I think it's worked for me for 6 years, so I would definitely continue with that too. Thank you.
Thank you,
Patty.
Great job.
I just want to add something. I think, in our community, if police or fire need equipment, they put it out there and the community takes care of it. I think this is our children riding the buses. This information needs to get out there so folks understand where we're at, what they need to do with the bond here. It's our only way in, so that's good information that needs to be shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty, very good. As usual. We will miss you in transportation.
I'm still around.
Oh, yeah.
Action items. Can I have a recommended motion to approve the changes to policy 8260, anti-bullying, as submitted by the board policy committee? Got it. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Let's pass this since we talked about it.
Opposed? Sorry, I'm jumping the gun
I
again
don't want to bully
today.
you when you're talking about it.
All right, let's talk about it because it's important.
It is, so ultimately, this does comply. Our policy had just been recently updated, and one of the components that we needed to add to it was the term, literally the term and the concept of cyberbullying. And so policy committee went through, and we really had a discussion as to what is bullying and what constitutes cyberbullying. And actually, cyberbullying was noted in terms of, kind of a repetitive, aggressive action, and then we talked about having it done in electronic form. And so what we did is we literally put the term cyberbullying in, one, to comply, but also to try and be as clear as possible that, the issue of bullying is inclusive of cyberbullying, and so now it's explicit in the policy moving forward, and ultimately, therefore, we're in compliance with the state law. So we did a good job of voting yes on that.
Retro vote.
Over postscript up here.
Thank you. Policy committee. And Dennis, I don't know if Karen talked to you, you're going to join the policy committee temporarily?
I've heard rumblings about
You've
that.
heard
It's the
rumblings?
meeting or something.
I will accept.
He walked out of the room and I
It's
said,
true.
"Well."
True. So thank you for your volunteerism.
Right.
We can gang up on Karen, it'll be all right.
Discussion items, audit.
Auditors have been in the district since last Tuesday, and we anticipate that they'll be here through the end of this week, working on their field work. It's gone really, really smoothly, like wood. They haven't been coming down and asking me for too much stuff. They keep saying it's going really well. It usually takes them a few weeks to finish the desk audit back in their offices, and they come back out for a few, couple of hours here and there to follow up. So I anticipate we'll have a draft report mid to late October. And at this point, it looks like we'll end up a little bit better than projected.
When do you think we should think about, would it be the first meeting in November where we'd accept it, or do we have to accept it before October 30th?
I don't know that it's a requirement to accept it. It has to be filed with the state by November 1st.
And
And then-
they can, does the board have to act to file it with the state, or?
No.
It's just,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would think by the first meeting in October, I would have an idea of when they would be ready.
Okay, so probably look at the first meeting in November for them to come here.
Do you want us to vote now?
No.
Okay, we won't jump the gun on that one.
Getting aggressive with that voting, but no. So we probably would look at the 10th as being the November 10th. Celebrate Juan.
So they're not physically here anymore, they've gone
No,
off.
they are.
They're
They're
still
here
here
this week.
This week.
Yeah. In fact, they're probably still here right now.
Board vacancy, I sort of covered that earlier. Applications are due Friday at 4 o'clock. Depending on how many applicants we get, we will more than likely convene a special board meeting, question the applicants, and then decide right then and there. That kind of follows our policy a little better than some of the ways we've done it in the past. So we will do that. And once Friday afternoon rolls around, we know how many we are, we'll make plans from that. Consent agenda. Can I have a recommended motion to authorize the following items as part of the consent agenda? A, approval of the regular Board of Education meetings of August 11, 2015. B, approval of the special board retreat minutes of September 1st, 2015. C, approval of payments of the general fund accounts payable of September 8th, 2015 in the amount of $5,045,140.01. D, receive and file the September Curriculum, Finance, and Human Resources reports. E, approval of the administrative regulations to policy 3605, district credit procurement cards as submitted by the board policy committee. F, approval of special education director Mussin's nomination of Terry Wagner to serve as the next PAC representative to the WISD for Saline area schools. G, receive and file memorandum from Superintendent Graydon approving the establishment of speech activities forensics club at the high school. H, receive and file letter from Assistant Superintendent Ellis to Matthew Breyer, confirming the successful completion of his probationary period and will be tenured beginning September 8th, 2015. Receive and file a letter from Assistant Superintendent Ellis to Matthew Seo, confirming the successful completion of his probationary period and will be tenured beginning September 8th, 2015. Receive and file a letter from Assistant Superintendent Ellis to Stephen Hasselback, confirming the successful completion of his probationary period and will be tenured beginning September 8, 2015. Receive and file a letter from Assistant Superintendent Ellis to Adam Rodriguez, confirming the successful completion of his probationary period and will be tenured beginning September 8, 2015.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Just like to comment, it's nice to see that we're tenuring teachers again after we fired a lot of youngsters the last few years. Good deal.
Kurt, just for my information, how long is the probationary period?
5 years now.
5 years.
Items scheduled on the next agenda.
The next meeting is a workshop meeting, and the focus will be led by Stephen Lodge. And we're going to talk about next generation learning, some of the curriculum initiatives associated with that, and some of the spaces associated with that. So Steve will be leading the meeting. Of note, I will not be present at the next meeting. We have a council meeting for the MASA executive committee, and that meets in conjunction with the conference, and so I will be at that meeting on the 22nd. Leave it in the trusty hands of Mr. Lodge.
Okay. We will, yes?
Well, I don't know, do we have a list out for the community of when you're going to talk about bond?
Yep, I'm going to actually I'll touch base on that. Okay, public comment.
Are you going to have a policy committee next week?
No,
Or-
it's not going to be on the 15th now, we can reschedule it, so there's going to be a bond instead.
This is the second chance for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
At the end, I just do want to know, so we do have a community forum coming up for the bond issue in this room, actually at 7 o'clock on September 15th, and you'll see a lot more about that coming up. And then I'll also we are opening a website, I believe it's bond.stateschools.org. It's not quite ready for your eyes yet, but it will be within the next 24 to 48 hours, and that will have an additional list of opportunities. I will say, so there's next Tuesday, that we'll be here, all are invited and welcome, and we'll be making sure people come and attend that and learn more about the bond issue. Also, on the 16th, there will be a meeting at 11:30 at the Senior Center, really targeting the senior general membership meeting. I know a few board members, Paul and a couple board members are intending to be there. We're going to talk there as well. That coming week, a week from this coming Saturday, is when absentee ballots begin to be available and to be turned in. So effectively, voting starts in about 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Our next meeting will be September 22nd, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. at the Liberty School Media Center. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting of September 8th, 2015 at 7:13 p.m.?
So moved.
Support?
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries, meeting's ended. Thank you, everyone.